She said her mom didn't approve of it, but I later found out her mom didn't even know I existed. When I met Claire, I wasn't looking for a relationship. I had just started a new job, moved to a new city, and was mostly focused on getting my life on track. But Claire had this way of walking into a room and making everything else blur out. She wasn't loud or overly confident. It was more like gravity bent a little around her. One conversation turned into two, then into long coffee dates, long phone calls at night, and eventually I found myself waking up next to her more often than not. We weren't perfect. She was more introverted, I was more social. She liked quiet weekends at home. I loved dragging her to food truck festivals and open mic nights, but we found a rhythm that worked. Or at least, I thought we did. About 3 months in, I brought up the idea of meeting her mom. Not in a serious, ask for your hand kind of way, just a casual, hey, next time your mom's in town, I'd love to say hi. She shifted in her seat, her eyes flicking toward the window. Then came the sigh. It's not a good idea, she said. My mom, she's complicated. Complicated how? I asked, trying to sound understanding. She's really traditional, like really traditional. She wouldn't approve of us. I frowned. Because I'm not religious? I mean that too, but it's more than that. You're not her type for me. She's got this vision of me ending up with someone from our community. You wouldn't get it. I didn't push. I just nodded and said, okay, I get it, and I thought I did. Months passed. We moved in together after 10 months, mostly because her roommate was moving out and my lease was ending, and it just felt right. Living with Claire was easy. She was tidy, quiet, had little routines that I found endearing. She talked in her sleep sometimes, that weird mumbly half-English that made me smile in the middle of the night. I felt lucky, really lucky, but anytime her family came up, it was a dead end. Her phone would ring, and she'd step out to take the call in another room. I'd ask how her mom was doing, and she'd offer vague replies, same old, or she's stressed at work. Holidays came and went, and while I invited her to meet my parents, and she did twice, she always refused to do the same. She'd just be rude to you, Claire told me one Thanksgiving. I don't want to put you through that. Still, little things started to bother me. She never posted pictures of us online. I don't care much for social media, but occasionally I'd tag her in a photo or mention her in a caption. She'd untag herself within hours. When I asked, she said it was to avoid drama with her extended family, that they all followed her and would question everything. Just keeping the peace, she'd say. It wasn't that I didn't trust her. I did. At least I thought I did. But every now and then, this nagging thought crept into my head. If your mom's such a problem, why not at least talk about it? Why not let me understand? The first real red flag came during her birthday. I had spent weeks planning a surprise dinner, invited some of her close friends, booked a private room at this little Italian place she loved. I even got her a gift she had offhandedly mentioned months earlier, a rare out-of-print poetry book she thought was impossible to find. The night of the dinner, she called me an hour before and said she wasn't feeling well. Headache, nausea, maybe food poisoning. I told her we could postpone. No big deal. But something in her voice sounded rehearsed. I canceled everything. She didn't answer her phone the rest of the night. Next morning, she came home around 11 a.m. I asked where she'd been. She said she'd spent the night at her friend Naomi's because she didn't want to infect me with whatever bug she had. I didn't push, but I couldn't shake the feeling something was off. Over the next few weeks, I started noticing more strange patterns. She always turned off her location sharing said it was a battery-saving thing. She never once mentioned her mom asking about me, or even acknowledging I existed. I asked if she ever brought me up. She hesitated. Not really. It would just lead to a fight. But she knows you're in a relationship, right? Claire paused. Sort of? Sort of? She thinks I'm seeing someone, but I haven't told her your name or anything. That stung. We'd been together for over 1.5 years at that point. I just don't want to deal with her drama, okay? She snapped. Can we please not make this a thing? I backed off. Again, like I always did. One night, though, something cracked. I was scrolling through my own Instagram, not hers, since she rarely posted, and I saw a photo of her from a friend's story. It was Claire, smiling wide, standing under fairy lights at some kind of backyard gathering. She looked beautiful, radiant. The problem was the guy next to her, tall, dark hair, his arm wrapped comfortably around her waist. Her body leaned into his. The caption read, "Cutest couple," with a heart eyes emoji and a heart emoji. My stomach dropped. I clicked on the friend's profile, someone I had met briefly once, and tried to view more. But her account was private. So I asked myself the question I didn't want to. Was Claire dating someone else, too? That night, I lay awake next to her, feeling like a stranger in my own bed. I watched her sleep and hated how peaceful she looked. I didn't know what to believe. Maybe it was just an old photo. Maybe that was her cousin. Maybe her friend had just made a dumb caption. But my gut screamed otherwise. Still, I didn't bring it up. I needed more than a blurry Instagram story to confront her. The moment came about a week later, when she told me she was going to spend the weekend at her mom's place. I asked if I could come. She laughed and said, "Absolutely not." Then she kissed me on the cheek and left. That was the last time I saw Claire before everything unraveled. That weekend felt longer than any I'd lived through in recent memory. I tried to distract myself, cleaned the apartment, visited friends, even went for a long hike I'd been putting off for months. But no matter what I did, Claire floated to the surface of every thought. Saturday evening, I caved. I opened her laptop. I know. I shouldn't have. But when someone you love tells you she's with her mom, and you're pretty sure she's not, and you've already seen a photo that makes your stomach twist, sometimes doing the wrong thing feels like the only way to survive the not knowing. She'd left it logged in. Chrome was open. Her Instagram was logged in too. And that's when everything started to unravel. She had a second account. Not the one I followed. A completely separate profile with a different username, no bio, and a private setting. But she was following all her friends. Her real friends. And they were following back. Her most recent post, a picture of her and him, the guy from the story. Weekend in the mountains with my person hard eyes. My blood ran cold. I clicked deeper. They had photos going back nearly 2 years. Beach photos, holiday decorations. A Valentine's Day post from the same year she had told me she had flu and couldn't get out of bed. Captions like, "You make life easier," and "So glad mom approves. She's obsessed with you, LOL." I stopped breathing. There were even comments from her mom. Heart emojis. "You two are the cutest." One said, "I'm so happy you found someone like Alex." Alex. He had a name. I felt like I was staring at some alternate universe. One where Claire was living a completely different life while mine was on pause. I opened Facebook and searched her mom's name. Found her. Sent a friend request from my real profile, and one from a fake one I quickly created using a random girl's name. That one got accepted within an hour. I messaged her. "Hi. Sorry for the random message, but I had a question. Are Claire and Alex still together?" She replied 2 minutes later. "Yes, of course. They're adorable together." "Who's asking?" I stared at the message. My fingers hovered over the keyboard for a while before I responded. Someone Claire's been seeing for over 2 years. I thought you should know." The typing dots came and went, reappeared, disappeared. Then, "Is this a joke?" I didn't answer. I just sent her screenshots. A photo of me and Claire at a concert, one of us holding hands on the beach last summer. A picture she'd taken of me cooking, wearing the hoodie she said made me look cozy. Then silence. 15 minutes passed. Then, "I don't know who you are, but I'll be talking to my daughter." That night, Claire didn't come home, didn't call, didn't text. The next morning she did. "Claire, I don't know what you did, Claire, but my mom is freaking out. Claire, you've completely ruined everything, Claire. Don't contact me again." That was it. No denial. No apology. Just blame. I sat in our apartment, still our apartment, surrounded by framed photos of us that apparently meant nothing. I kept hearing her voice saying, "My mom wouldn't approve," and it all twisted into something rotten and cruel. She never told her mom about me because I didn't exist in that version of her life. I was the backup, the quiet guy, the low-stakes fallback, a safety net. And somehow, even after everything, part of me still wanted to understand why. Why lie? Why build a whole second relationship just to keep it hidden? I got my answer a few days later. A friend of hers, someone she'd introduced me to briefly, messaged me. She said she'd seen the drama online, seen Claire's other account, and felt sick. She told me Claire had met Alex in college. They broke up for a bit. Claire met me during that time, and then got back with him a few months later. But instead of ending it with me, she just continued both. "She always said you were her escape," the friend wrote. "Said you were calm and sweet and didn't come with drama. She'd run to you when things got too intense with Alex." Escape. Not part, not boyfriend, not love. Escape. That word felt like someone drove a nail through my ribs. I spent the next few days packing up her things. I put her clothes in boxes, left them by the door. I didn't throw anything out. I didn't rage, or burn her stuff, or leave a passive-aggressive note. I just folded everything neat because that's who I was in her life. The neat, quiet boy who didn't make a scene. The landlord let me remove her from the lease. She didn't fight it. I changed the locks, blocked her number, deleted every picture, every text, every playlist we made. It didn't feel like winning. It felt like setting fire to a house I'd built with my bare hands. But I couldn't leave a single piece of her standing. She tried to message me a few weeks later through a mutual friend. Said she wanted to explain. I told him I didn't want the message. He said it was long and emotional. Good. Let it rot in her drafts. I didn't go out much for the next few weeks. I kept telling people I just needed space. From everything. Everyone. But really, I was scared. Scared that I'd run into her. Scared I'd hear her laugh in a coffee shop or see her face across the street and feel my chest cave in all over again. Even worse was the silence. After that message through our mutual friend, Claire never reached out again. Not direct. "No, I'm sorry. No, it wasn't supposed to happen this way." Not even a lie to clean it up. Just gone. I started therapy. I didn't know what else to do. I wasn't sleeping. I kept obsessively thinking about every conversation, every weekend, every tiny moment, and wondering if any of it was real. I'd go on walks and remember a random Tuesday when we got ice cream and sat in the park, her head on my shoulder. And now all I could think was, did she text him right after? Did she lie to him about me too? Therapist said something during our second session that hit me hard. You weren't grieving her. You were grieving the version of her you created in your head, the one she let you believe in. That one broke because it was true. The girl who read poetry at night, who cried during animated movies, who wore my t-shirts to bed and said I smelled like home. She didn't exist. Or at least, not for me. I was just a mirror she used to reflect whatever piece of herself she needed to see at the time. A few weeks later, I wrote everything down in a Reddit post. I didn't include names or photos. Just the story, the heartbreak, the strange gut instincts I'd ignored, the feeling of finding out you were never the main anything in someone's life, just a quiet detour. It went viral in ways I never expect. Thousands of comments, people sharing their own stories. Messages from complete strangers telling me they'd been there, that they knew what it felt like to be erased, to be edited out of someone else's truth. I didn't post it for revenge. I didn't even expect many people to read it. I just needed to put it somewhere. And for the first time in weeks, I didn't feel so alone. And then came the DM from someone I didn't know. Username looked like spam. I almost deleted it without reading. But the message preview caught my eye. You need to see this. She's still lying. I opened it. Screenshots. Claire's private Instagram, the other one, had been made public for a few hours. Someone grabbed what they could. Posts, comments, DMs. In one of them, she was messaging a friend about the Reddit story. Laughing. This guy wrote a novel about me because I broke his heart, dramatic mutt. He's acting like I murdered his dog or something. And then, the one that made my heart drop straight into my stomach. I told him from the start we wouldn't be serious. He just assumed too much. I kept him around when Alex was being a jerk. He was convenient. That's not a crime. Convenient. I wasn't even a person to. Just an emotional Uber. A warm bed. A listener when her golden boy pissed her off. I sat at my desk staring at that word for a long time. Convenient. Like a coffee shop on the corner. A hoodie when it gets cold. A spare charger. Something you don't think about twice when you leave it behind. I didn't respond to the person who sent me the screenshots. Didn't need to. Just thanked them and logged off. But the anger came in waves after that. Not the wild kind that makes you want to throw things. The quiet kind. The kind that simmers low in your chest for days. Burning slow. I didn't want revenge, not really, but I did want the truth to be something she couldn't erase any. So I added an update to the Reddit post. Nothing dramatic, just facts, screenshots, dates. And I made sure to blur everything that might dox her. I wasn't out to ruin her life, just to make sure the version of the story she was telling behind my back didn't win. That update blew up even faster than the first post. People knew her now. Some of her college friends messaged me, saying they always suspected she was two-timing, that she had a reputation for being emotionally fluid. One guy said she did something similar to him during freshman year, but he didn't know how far it went until he read my story. I'll be honest, there was some twisted satisfaction in that. Not because I wanted to hurt her, but because for the first time, I didn't feel crazy. I wasn't some over-attached guy who assumed too much. I was someone who had been led on, lied to, and compartmentalized like a seasonal outfit. Eventually, the post died down. People moved on. I moved on, slowly. I started going out again. Saw a few people. Nothing serious. Just coffee, walks, conversations with people who didn't flinch when I said I'd been hurt. I got back into music, started writing again, even recorded a few tracks in my friend's home studio. I stopped checking Claire's accounts, stopped Googling her name, stopped needing to know. And one night, I remember it clearly. I walked past this little corner bar where Claire and I had gone on our first real date. The lights were low, jazz was playing inside, and for the first time, I didn't feel a single thing. No nostalgia, no pain, no spark of what used to be, just quiet. And I realized that's what healing really is. Not a moment of triumph or a final confrontation. Just walking past the ghosts and realizing they don't recognize you anymore. A few months passed. Life didn't feel exciting. Not yet, but it was stable. I had found a new rhythm. Therapy was helping. Work was steady. I'd started sleeping better. Eating better. I didn't flinch when I passed a girl with brown hair in the grocery store. I didn't reread our old messages any. I stopped wondering what Claire was doing, or if she missed me, or if she still rolled her eyes every time someone said the word accountability. Then one day, I got a message request on Facebook from her mom. I almost didn't open it. Just stared at her name, Mrs. Late, hovering like a ghost in my inbox. I clicked anyway. I just wanted you to know that I'm sorry. For what it's worth, I didn't know. Not about you. Not about any of it. I feel sick when I think about it. I believed everything she said. I always thought she was honest with me. I only found out the truth when one of her old friends sent me that Reddit post. I didn't want to believe it at first. But I remembered your name from your first message. I pieced it together. She moved back in with me after her breakup with Alex. And she's not in a good place. I'm not making excuses, but she's dealing with things. I guess I just wanted to say, you didn't deserve what she did. None of it. I stared at that message for a long time. Claire had broken up with Alex. Or maybe he had left. Maybe the tangled web finally collapsed in on itself. But it didn't change anything. It didn't bring me any joy. Just a strange, distant ache, like reading the obituary of someone who used to live next door. I didn't respond to her mom. There wasn't anything to say. I appreciated the message, but I wasn't interested in diving back into that world, even at the shoreline. A week later, I got a text from an unknown number. I know I don't have the right to reach out, but I saw your post. I read all of it. I just wanted to say I'm sorry for what I did, for how I did it, for making you feel like you were invisible. It was Claire. I didn't respond. She followed up. I didn't know who I was back then. I was so afraid of choosing wrong that I chose everyone, and I ruined all of it. You were good to me, better than I deserve. Still, I said nothing. Because I finally understood something that took me 2 years and 1,000 tears to realize. Closure doesn't always come in the form of an apology. Sometimes it's just the moment you realize you no longer need one. She texted again a few days later. I miss the version of me I was with. She was real, I swear. I just didn't know how to keep her. That one hurt. Because part of me, the tiny part that still remembered her laugh during thunderstorms and the way she hummed when she cooked, wanted to believe her, but I didn't reply. I couldn't go backward just because someone finally turned around. I blocked the number. That night, I sat on my balcony watching the city lights blink like tired stars. I realized I hadn't cried in weeks. I hadn't needed to write things down just to make sense of them. The chaos had quieted. The noise inside me had finally gone still. And then, something unexpected happened. I met someone new. Her name was Riley. We bumped into each other. Literally, at a bookstore. I dropped a novel, she picked it up and said, "Good choice." We ended up grabbing coffee, then dinner, then more coffee. Then I told her everything. Not on the first date, not even on the second, but eventually. And the difference was immediate. She didn't flinch. Didn't tell me I was too intense or too emotional for still being hurt. She just listened, held my hand, told me she'd been lied to once too. Told me it doesn't make us weak, it makes us wiser. And here's the moment that really undid me, when she introduced me to her mom. We'd only been dating for 3 weeks. It wasn't a big deal, just a casual brunch. Nothing fancy. But Riley said, "Hey, my mom's in town. Want to join us?" And just like that, I exist. No secrets. No excuses. No invisible boundary I wasn't allowed to cross. Her mom hugged, asked about my job, complimented my shirt, smiled like I wasn't some dirty little secret but an actual person who mattered to her daughter. I almost cried in that cafe. Because for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like a placeholder. I felt real. And here's the thing about healing. It's not always loud. Sometimes it shows up as a quiet Sunday morning when you realize your heart doesn't jump at every phone buzz. Sometimes it's a girl introducing you to her mom without a trace of fear. Sometimes it's just breathing easy for the first time in months. I'll never forget Claire. Not because I still love her. I don't. Not because I'm angry. I'm not. But because she taught me what I never want again. To be a secret in someone else's life. Now, I'm building something honest. With someone honest. And I know it won't be perfect. Nothing is. But it'll be true. And after everything, that's more than enough. Things were quiet for a while after I blocked. I was healing. Slowly but surely. Riley and I were steady, not rushing anything, just enjoying the simplicity of being two people who didn't have to question whether we mattered to each other. There was a peace in that, a deep, humbling peace. But the universe has a strange sense of humor. It happened on a Thursday. Riley and I were walking through an outdoor market. She was holding a small bouquet of sunflowers, her hand looped in mine. The sun was out. It should have been just another ordinary, happy day. And then I saw Claire. She was about 30 feet away, standing near a vendor selling candles. Alone, her hair shorter. Messier than I remember. She looked thinner, pale even. She glanced up. Our eyes locked. Time slowed. She blinked. Then started walking toward us. Riley hadn't seen her yet. She was chatting about some food truck she wanted to try. "Hey," Claire said. And Riley turned. Her smile faltered the second she sensed the tension between us. Claire looked wrecked. Her voice was thin. "Can we talk?" "No," I said instantly. "No, we can't." She looked at Riley. "I'm sorry. I just need 5 minutes." "You don't." I cut in. "You had years, and you wasted them." Claire's mouth opened, closed. I could see the panic swimming behind her eyes. "I just need to explain some things," she whispered. "Please." Riley stepped back, clearly giving me space to handle it. I could tell she didn't want to cause drama, but she also wasn't the kind to be pushed aside. She stayed close, silent, supportive. Claire glanced at her again. "You must think I'm a monster." "I don't think," Riley said calm. "I just listen to how people treat the ones they say they love. That tells me enough." Claire swallowed hard, and for a second I almost felt sorry. But then I remembered everything. The hidden posts. The secret account. The convenient comment. The nights I lay awake while she laughed at me behind a screen. So I said what I had never let myself say. "You made me feel like I didn't matter. Like I was just filler until your real life came back. And the worst part? You let me believe it was my fault. That I wasn't good enough to meet your mom. That I was too fragile to handle your world." Claire looked down. "But I was never the problem," I continued. "You were. Because you were a coward." She flinched like I slapped her. "I know. You don't," I said. "You say you know. But you're still chasing closure because you can't sit with your own choices. And I'm done carrying your guilt for you." Tears filled her eyes, but I didn't care. "You used me," I said, voice steady. "You buried me under lies and made me doubt my own. I had to rebuild myself from scratch. But you know what? That rebuild led me here." I looked at Riley. She squeezed my hand. Claire followed my gaze and seemed to understand. Her lip quivered. "I hope you heal," I told her. "I do. But your healing isn't mine to help with it." She nodded slowly, then turned and walked away without another word. And just like that, she was gone again. But this time, I didn't feel hollow. I felt free. Riley and I finished walking the market. She didn't press me with questions. Just gently linked her arm through mine and kissed my cheek like she knew that moment had closed something deep inside me. Later that night, I told her, "Thank you for being there, for not letting her shake." She smiled. "You didn't need me to hold you up. You were already standing." And I realized she was right. It's been over a year since that day in the market. Claire never reached out again. There were no more anonymous messages, no surprise emails, No passive-aggressive social media shade, just silence. And for the first time since she left my life, it finally felt like peace. Not a void, not a cliff, just peace. Riley and I have grown closer. We moved in together a few months ago. Nothing fancy, just a small place with creaky floors and sunlight in the kitchen. She leaves little notes for me when she goes to work early. I've memorized her coffee order. She's memorized the way I panic when I misplace my keys, and how to calm me down in 3 words. They're probably charging. We're not perfect. We've argued. We've cried. We've gotten lost on road trips and hangry at IKEA. But it's real. It's open. It's honest. When I told her I loved her, I was terrified. Not because I wasn't sure. I was. But because loving someone after being broken feels like touching fire again and hoping it doesn't burn this time. She just smiled and said, I know. I love you too. You don't have to be scared any. And I believe sometimes, late at night, I still think about the version of myself I was back then. The guy who believed love meant sacrificing visibility. That being good enough meant being patient with secrets, being understanding of lies, being okay with half a life. But I'm not that guy. And love isn't a locked door you're never allowed to knock on. It's someone handing you the key and saying, come in. You're welcome, all of you. I used to wonder how Claire could do what she did, how she could live 2 lives so fully and convince herself that no one was being hurt. Maybe she was broken. Maybe she was scared. Maybe she thought she was being smart. I don't know. And honestly, I don't care any. Her story isn't mine to carry. Mine is about learning the difference between being loved and being kept, between being someone's peace and being their placeholder. And I know now, I was never hard to love. I was just loving the wrong person. There's a photo on my desk now. It's me and Riley at a small cabin we rented in the mountains. We're wrapped in blankets, snow outside the window, mugs in hand, grinning like idiots. I remember that moment. I remember thinking, this is what it's supposed to feel like. There's no hiding, no shame, no backup plans, no edits. Just 2 people who see each other fully and still choose to stay. So if you're reading this and you've been someone's secret, someone's afterthought, someone's emotional safety net, I want you to know something. You deserve more. You deserve the version of love that doesn't flinch when it sees the light. You deserve to be someone's first, not their fallback. And if you've been there, if you felt the sting of being erased, let me say the words I wish someone had told me when I was in the thick of it. It wasn't you. You were enough. You still are. And the right person won't make you earn your place in their life. They'll make space without asking. Felt the sting of being erased. Let me say the words I wish someone had told me when I was in the thick of it. It wasn't you. You were enough. You still are. And the right person won't make you earn your place in their life. They'll make space without asking.